There are moments in life when you think you truly understand the people closest to you. I thought I knew my family better than anyone else in the world. After all, I had been supporting them financially for 3 years, helping them through every crisis and celebration. When my phone buzzed that Friday evening with a video message from my Aunt Patricia, I expected another heartfelt thank you, or maybe a cute clip of my cousins doing something funny. I had just finished a major project at work and was feeling proud of how I could balance my successful career while being there for the people I loved most. Little did I know that video would change everything. Before I share what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching from. Please hit that like button and subscribe if you are ready for a story about family betrayal that taught me the most important lesson of my life. Trust me, you will not see this ending coming. My name is Brooke Adams, and at 27 years old, I thought I had figured out how to be the person my family needed me to be. As a graphic designer living in Portland, Oregon, I had built a successful career that allowed me to earn $85,000 a year. Growing up, life had not always been easy for us. When my father passed away suddenly from a heart attack when I was just 16, everything changed for our family. My mother, Linda, worked 2 jobs just to keep our heads above water, supporting both me and my younger brother, Kyle, while we finished high school. My Aunt Patricia, who was my mother's older sister, had always been like a second mother to me. She lived just 30 minutes away with her husband, David, and their 3 children. The twins, Jessica and Jordan, were 25, just 2 years younger than me, and their youngest son, Marcus, was 22. We had always been a close-knit family, getting together for every holiday and birthday. When Uncle David was involved in a serious car accident 2 years ago, everything shifted for their household as well. The financial struggles began gradually, like most things that change your life forever. 3 years ago, my graphic design company started landing bigger clients, and suddenly I found myself in a position I had never imagined. My income was stable, I lived modestly in a nice apartment, and for the first time in my adult life, I had money left over at the end of each month. When I noticed my mother looking stressed about the electric bill during one of our weekly dinners, offering to help felt as natural as breathing. It started small and simple. I began covering my mother's utilities, then her grocery bills, then her car insurance. When Kyle was struggling to finish his final semester of college, I did not hesitate to write the check for $12,000 to cover his tuition. Seeing the relief on his face and the pride in my mother's eyes made every penny worth it. I felt useful, important, needed in a way that my career success alone had never provided. When Aunt Patricia called me in tears 6 months later, explaining that they were behind on their mortgage payments because David could not work after his accident, I knew I had to step in. The monthly payment was $2,800, but I had calculated my budget carefully. I could handle it, especially since it was supposed to be temporary until Uncle David recovered and returned to work. But temporary became permanent, and one request led to another. Jessica needed money for a certification course that cost $3,500. Jordan had a car accident and needed $2,200 for repairs that insurance would not cover. When Marcus was rushed to the hospital with appendicitis, I covered the $4,800 medical bill without being asked. Aunt Patricia's grocery and utility bills became my responsibility too, since David's disability payments barely covered their basic needs. Before I realized what had happened, I was spending approximately $6,500 every month supporting my extended family. To make it work, I moved from my beautiful 2-bedroom apartment to a small studio. I canceled the vacation I had been planning to Europe. I stopped eating out at restaurants and started shopping at secondhand stores for clothes. But none of that mattered to me because I believed I was doing something meaningful with my life. Every phone call from Patricia began with genuine gratitude and updates about how much my support meant to everyone. During family gatherings, I was always welcomed with the warmest hugs and the most sincere thank you messages. I felt like I was making a real difference in people's lives, helping them get through a difficult period that would eventually end when Uncle David was fully recovered and back to work. Looking back now, I realize I was living in a carefully constructed fantasy. I thought my generosity was appreciated and respected. I believed that my family saw my sacrifices and valued not just my financial contributions, but me as a person. I convinced myself that this was what family meant, that this was how love was supposed to work. The truth was far more devastating than I could have ever imagined. That Friday evening started like any other. I had just completed a major campaign for one of our biggest clients, and I was feeling accomplished and relaxed. I was sitting on my couch in my small studio apartment, a glass of wine in my hand, planning to order some takeout and watch a movie. When my phone buzzed with a text message, I glanced down and saw Patricia's name on the screen. The message was brief. "Wrong chat, sorry," with a video attachment. I was curious because Patricia rarely sent videos, and I wondered what she had meant to share and with whom. Maybe it was a funny clip she had recorded of the family, or perhaps something she had intended for one of her children. I tapped on the video without thinking much about it, expecting to see something innocent and maybe even heartwarming. The video had been recorded in Patricia's living room, and I could immediately tell it was after one of their family dinners. The camera appeared to be sitting on the coffee table, probably because Patricia had intended to record something to send to someone else. I could see most of the family gathered around, including my mother, who must have been visiting that evening. Everyone looked comfortable and happy the way families do when they think they are in a private, safe space. What happened next destroyed everything I thought I knew about the people I loved most. My mother's voice came through clearly first. "I do not know how much longer we can keep taking her money like this." The casual tone of her voice made my blood run cold. She was talking about me, and there was no warmth or gratitude in her words, just a matter-of-fact discussion about my financial contributions. Patricia responded immediately, and I could hear the dismissive tone that I had never noticed before. She is such a people pleaser, always trying to fix everyone's problems like some kind of superhero. The way she said it made it sound like a character flaw, something to be mocked rather than appreciated. Jessica's laugh was the sound that really broke my heart. It is actually kind of pathetic how desperate she is to be needed, like we do not even have to ask anymore. She just throws money at us. I had always thought Jessica and I were close. We texted regularly, and she often told me how much she looked up to me as an older cousin. Hearing her dismiss my help as pathetic desperation felt like a physical blow. Jordan joined in with his own observation. "Remember when she offered to pay for my car repair? I did not even ask her for help that time. She just saw me looking stressed and immediately pulled out her checkbook." His tone suggested that my willingness to help without being asked was somehow foolish rather than generous. Marcus, who I had considered almost like a little brother, added his own cruel commentary. "She acts like some kind of savior, but really she is just lonely and sad. It is like she thinks she can buy our love or something." The casual cruelty in his voice was devastating. I had never thought of myself as lonely or sad, and I certainly never believed I was trying to buy anyone's love. But it was Uncle David's comment that truly shattered me. "The girl has no backbone. She is a pathetic failure at relationships, so she tries to buy our love instead." It is honestly kind of sad when you think about it. His voice carried a mixture of pity and contempt that made me feel sick to my stomach. This was the man whose mortgage I had been paying for months, whose medical bills I had covered, whose family I had supported through his recovery. My mother's response was perhaps the most painful of all. "I feel bad sometimes, but if she wants to throw her money away on us, who are we to stop her?" The resigned tone in her voice suggested that she had been thinking about this for a long time. This was not a spontaneous conversation, but an ongoing discussion about how to handle my financial support. Patricia's final comment felt like salt in an open wound. "At least we all benefit from her poor judgment. She will never say no to us no matter what we ask for. It is like having our own personal bank account." The whole room erupted in laughter at that comment, the kind of mean-spirited laughter that comes at someone else's expense. I sat in my small apartment watching this video on repeat, trying to process what I had just seen and heard. My hands were shaking so badly that I almost dropped my phone. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach and I could not catch my breath. The wine glass slipped from my other hand and shattered on the floor, but I barely noticed the sound. I watched the video 3 more times, hoping that maybe I had misunderstood something, that perhaps the audio was unclear or that I had taken their comments out of context. But there was no mistaking what I had seen. The people I loved most in the world, the people I had sacrificed so much to help, saw me as nothing more than a convenient source of money. They thought I was pathetic, desperate, and foolish. That night became the longest night of my life. I could not sleep, could not eat, could not focus on anything except replaying every interaction I had had with my family over the past 3 years. I started to see signs that I had completely missed before. During family gatherings, no one ever asked about my work, my dating life, my dreams, or my goals. The conversations always somehow turned to their financial struggles and their needs. I pulled out my bank statements and calculated exactly how much money I had given them over the years. The total was $127,000, more than a year's salary given freely and with love, only to be mocked and dismissed behind my back. I felt stupid and naive, but also angry and betrayed. The worst part was realizing that I had lost my sense of purpose and identity in the process. Who was I, if not the person who helped everyone else? The week that followed was a strange mixture of emotional turmoil and careful planning. I continued my normal routine, going to work and handling my responsibilities, but inside I felt completely hollow. Every time my phone rang with a call from a family member, my stomach would clench with anxiety and anger. I kept my responses brief and polite when Patricia or my mother tried to reach out, not wanting to reveal what I knew until I had figured out exactly how I wanted to handle the situation. Patricia called 2 days after sending the video, clearly worried about what she had accidentally shared. Her voice was nervous when she said, "Brooke, honey, I hope you did not watch that silly video I sent by mistake. It was just family nonsense, nothing important." I simply replied, "No problem at all," and let her assume that I either had not watched it or had not understood the significance of what I had seen. The relief in her voice when she hung up made me feel even more disgusted. During that week, I threw myself into researching financial abuse and emotional manipulation. I wanted to understand how I had ended up in this situation and why I had not seen the warning signs. I discovered that what had happened to me was more common than I had realized. Generous people, especially women, often found themselves being taken advantage of by family members who saw kindness as weakness and generosity as stupidity. I reviewed text message conversations from the past 3 years with fresh eyes, and I began to see patterns that I had completely missed before. Every request for money came with an elaborate sob story designed to maximize my emotional response. Every crisis seemed to happen right when I was feeling financially secure. Every thank you message was immediately followed by hints about upcoming expenses or new problems that would require my help. I spent hours researching my family members on social media, and what I discovered made my anger turn to rage. Uncle David had been posting pictures of himself at various job sites for the past 6 months. He had clearly returned to work part-time, but no one had bothered to tell me. His disability was not as complete as they had led me to believe. Jessica's certification course was for a hobby photography class, not career development like she had claimed. Jordan's car accident had been a minor fender bender, and insurance had actually covered most of the repair costs. Marcus's medical bills were the most infuriating discovery of all. I found evidence that their insurance had covered the surgery, and the bill I had paid was mostly copay and elective upgrades to his hospital room. They had not needed my money at all. They had simply seen an opportunity to get me to pay for something that they could have handled themselves. As the week went on, my emotions went through several stages. First came the anger, burning hot and righteous. I felt used and betrayed in a way that I had never experienced before. Then came the sadness, a deep mourning for relationships that I now realized had never been real. I grieved for the family I thought I had, for the love I thought we shared, for the trust that had been shattered completely. The guilt phase was perhaps the worst. I started questioning whether cutting off their financial support would truly hurt people who were depending on me. What if Uncle David's recovery was not as complete as it appeared? What if they really did need the money, even if they did not appreciate it? I wondered if I was being petty and vindictive, letting hurt feelings override my responsibility to help family members in need. But then came the empowerment, the realization that my worth as a person was not tied to my ability to solve other people's financial problems. I made an appointment with Dr. Sarah Martinez, a therapist who specialized in family dynamics and boundary setting. During our first session, she helped me understand the difference between helping people and enabling them. She explained that true generosity should be appreciated, not expected, and that healthy families do not exploit each other's kindness. Dr. Martinez helped me understand that my response to this situation should not be about revenge or punishment. It should be about self-respect and establishing healthy boundaries. She encouraged me to think about what I wanted my life to look like going forward and how I wanted to be treated by the people who claimed to love me. I decided to wait for the next round of financial requests rather than confronting anyone directly. I wanted to see if they would be honest with me when they asked for money, or if they would continue to manipulate me with fake emergencies and exaggerated problems. I documented all of the financial support I had provided over the past 3 years, creating a detailed record of every payment and every request. I also started planning what I would do with the additional $6,500 I would have each month once I stopped supporting my extended family. I could move back to a nicer apartment, take that trip to Europe I had canceled, start saving for my own future instead of funding theirs. For the first time in years, I started thinking about what I wanted for my own life instead of what everyone else needed from me. The opportunity I had been waiting for arrived exactly 2 weeks after the video incident. Patricia called on a Tuesday morning, and I could hear the familiar manipulative tone in her voice before she even finished her greeting. "Brooke, honey, I hate to bother you, but the bank called yesterday about this month's mortgage payment. With David still not back to full capacity at work, we are really struggling to keep up." Before I could even respond to Patricia's call, my phone started buzzing with text messages. Marcus was asking about upcoming semester tuition, claiming that he had applied for scholarships but had not heard back yet, and registration deadlines were approaching. Jessica sent a long message about needing money for a professional wardrobe because she had several job interviews lined up and wanted to make a good impression. It was the perfect storm of requests, exactly like the pattern I had observed over the past 3 years. Multiple family members asking for money at the same time, each with their own urgent deadline and emotional appeal. In the past, I would have immediately started calculating how much I could afford to give each of them. This time, I took a deep breath and implemented the plan I had been preparing for weeks. When I called Patricia back, my voice was calm and steady. "I will not be making any more mortgage payments," I said simply. The silence on the other end of the line lasted so long that I thought the call had been dropped. "What do you mean?" Patricia finally asked, and I could hear the confusion and panic starting to creep into her voice. "Is everything okay with your job? Are you having financial problems? We can wait a few days if you need time to transfer the money." "Everything is fine with my job," I replied. "I have decided to prioritize my own financial goals from now on. I will not be providing any more financial support to anyone in the family." The words felt strange coming out of my mouth, but also liberating in a way I had not expected. Patricia immediately launched into a desperate explanation about David's condition, about how much the family depended on me, about how we had to stick together during difficult times. She reminded me of all the times she had been there for me when I was growing up, all the family loyalty we had shared over the years. I let her finish her speech before responding. "Patricia, I think it would be best for everyone if I step back from this role I have been playing. I know you will find a way to manage your finances without my help." I could have mentioned the video could have confronted her directly about what I had heard, but I decided that would be giving her an opportunity to make excuses and apologies that would not change anything. The phone call with my mother was even more difficult. Linda started with the guilt approach, reminding me of how hard she had worked to raise Kyle and me as a single parent, and how much it meant to her that I was successful enough to help the family. When that did not work, her tone shifted to anger. She accused me of being selfish and cold-hearted, of forgetting where I came from and who had supported me when I needed it. "You are abandoning your family when we need you most," she said, and her voice was full of disappointment and hurt. "I raised you to be better than this, Brooke. I thought you understood what family loyalty means." I felt the familiar pull of guilt and obligation, the same feelings that had led me to start supporting everyone in the first place. But this time, I remembered the video and the casual cruelty with which they had dismissed my generosity. "I love you, Mom," I said quietly, "but I cannot continue to be everyone's financial safety net. You will have to find other solutions." The most surprising reaction came from my brother Kyle. When I called to explain my decision, I expected him to be angry about losing the financial support that had helped him through college. Instead, he was quiet for a long moment before saying, "I always wondered if they were taking advantage of you. I saw how much you were sacrificing, and it never seemed fair. Kyle's support meant more to me than I could have imagined. He was the only family member who seemed to understand that my decision was not about money but about respect and healthy relationships. You deserve to be appreciated for who you are, not just for what you can provide, he told me. I will make sure I pay you back for the tuition when I can, but I never want you to feel obligated to support me or anyone else. The first month without making family payments felt strange and uncomfortable. I had become so accustomed to managing everyone else's financial crises that I did not know what to do with the extra money in my account. Part of me felt guilty every time I thought about Patricia struggling with the mortgage or Marcus worrying about tuition. But I also felt a freedom that I had not experienced in years. I used some of the money to move to a beautiful one-bedroom apartment with large windows and a view of the mountains. I bought myself new clothes that fit properly and made me feel confident. I enrolled in a photography class that I had been wanting to take for months but had never been able to afford. I started therapy sessions with Dr. Martinez on a regular basis, working through the emotional damage that years of financial manipulation had caused. Most importantly, I began to rebuild my sense of self-worth. I joined a hiking group and made friends who knew nothing about my family situation or my income. I reconnected with my college friend Emma, who had always been suspicious of how much my family asked of me. "You are so much happier now," she told me after we had lunch together for the first time in months. "It is like you are finally living your own life." 6 months after I stopped providing financial support, my relationship with most of my family had settled into minimal contact. Patricia sent occasional text messages asking how I was doing, but the warmth and frequent communication had disappeared completely. My mother called every few weeks, but our conversations were stiff and uncomfortable. Jessica Jordan and Marcus stopped reaching out altogether once they realized I was serious about my decision. The only family relationship that grew stronger was with Kyle, who respected my boundaries and never made me feel guilty about my choices. He took a part-time job to help with his remaining expenses and never once asked me for additional support. "I want to have a relationship with you that is not based on money," he told me. "You are my sister, and that means something more than just financial help." During this time, I also met Tom, my neighbor in the new apartment building. He was a teacher who appreciated my creativity and intelligence, who enjoyed spending time with me without knowing anything about my financial situation. For the first time in years, I was in a relationship where I felt valued for who I was, rather than what I could provide. Tom's perspective on family relationships helped me understand that what I had experienced was not normal or healthy. "Family members who truly love you want you to succeed and be happy," he said one evening as we watched the sunset from my new apartment balcony. "They do not see you as a resource to be exploited or a problem to be solved." The most important lesson I learned through this experience was understanding the difference between being loved and being used. True love involves respect, appreciation, and genuine concern for your well-being. Being used involves manipulation, entitlement, and conditional affection based on what you can provide. I had confused the two for far too long, and it had cost me my self-respect and financial security. I also learned that setting boundaries is not selfish or cruel. It is necessary for maintaining healthy relationships and protecting your own mental and emotional health. People who truly care about you will respect your boundaries even if they do not always like them. People who only value you for what you can give them will disappear when the giving stops, and that tells you everything you need to know about the relationship. Looking back now, I am grateful for that accidental video message, even though it was one of the most painful experiences of my life. It opened my eyes to a reality that I needed to see, and it gave me the strength to make changes that ultimately improved my life in ways I could never have imagined. I learned to value myself enough to demand respect from the people who claim to love me, and I discovered that my worth as a person has nothing to do with my ability to solve other people's problems. The most profound realization was that protecting your own heart while helping others is not only possible but necessary. True generosity comes from a place of strength and choice, not from manipulation and guilt. When you help people because you want to, rather than because you feel obligated to the experience, is completely different for everyone involved. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where your kindness was taken for granted, or where family members expected more from you than they were willing to give in return? How did you handle it? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please take a moment to like this video if my story resonated with you and subscribe for more real-life stories about family dynamics, personal growth, and learning to value yourself. Share this video with someone who might need to hear this message about setting healthy boundaries with family members. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it helps you recognize your own worth and the importance of surrounding yourself with people who truly appreciate you for who you are, not just for what you can provide.